What if the thing you are clinging to, and maybe don't even know you're clinging to, is the thing that's keeping you from the breakthrough, the dream, the miracle? It could be. All right, me giving away a $6,000 plus sauna, not just a sauna, a beloved sauna. Okay, I'm in the process of releasing a lot of my life right now, some of which I chose, some of which I didn't. My daughter said, hey, I'm 18, I want to live on my own. Awesome. Not my choice. I would have rather she stayed around a little longer, so it goes. Next phase of our relationship. Another part, though, as it all moves through, I say, hey, you know what? Spirit invites me, suggests, encourages me, intuition, create a buffer between old life and new life, a ritualistic buffer, 4 months away from my home on Maui. In fact, give up the home on Maui. In fact, give up all the stuff. All the stuff. All the stuff. I like stuff. I like the stuff that I choose, right? I like my comforts, my possession. I like my safety. That wasn't the instruction, though. The instruction is go. Ritualistic buffer. So I am going for 4 months to another beloved island of mine, Martha's Vineyard, and I could put stuff in storage. That would make a lot of sense, right? Right? My camera equipment, my studio space, art, bed, kitchen stuff, sofa. But then I think, okay, well, you know what? Most of that stuff, I could just get that again. And probably I've used it enough, and I can give it away. I can sell it. Right, because cash flow is a little bit tight right now. There are a lot, you know how it is, moving, a lot of expenses. So, all right, but my sauna, I really want to keep my sauna. So, thinking it through, I could sell it. Or maybe I'd better to sell it because storage is expensive. I haven't had a friend that really wants it. So I call up my friend, my coach, John. I'm like, hey, would you like to buy the sauna? And then as soon as I say it, voice message, I realize, actually, I would like to just give it to him. Right? He's probably as much of a health freak as me, or just in different ways. He would love it. And you know what? I love him. He's been so kind and generous to me. Here's the deal, though. I don't know, actually. You may say, well, dude, that's kind of stupid. You could sell it. I'm sure you could get $3,500 for it, like that. It's in great shape, well-researched, ultra-low EMF sauna. The principle, though, is, and it flashed right after I said it, for me, a principle for me. This doesn't need to be your principle. The principle is never resist a generous impulse. Never resist a generous impulse. Now, 2 things that are important on that. 1, why live with principles? Why not just figure it out every moment? Well, okay, that's good. Let's not make our principles into prisons. Principles, though, help us say, what's more important to me? Right? The potential that I can get this money or following my generous impulse. I'll tell you how I got to it. Some years ago, I read John Ruhlin's book. Giftology is the name of the book. Beautiful, amazing book. And I learned his story I won't tell you his story. His story is amazing. Check him out. Ruhlin. Great interview from Lewis Howes, The School of Greatness. Read Giftology. I'm really excited because his next book is about to come out. And Giftology has a principle to it, which is, it's not the thought that counts, it's the thoughtful thought that counts. And as I dove into that, it just spoke to me like that's a way of working in the world and marketing that makes sense to me, that I love. It's about giving, it's about being generous, it's about being loving. And as I researched the book and John, I came across a beautiful article. I don't remember even who it was now, but part of how this author evolved, and this is what I do. I take in new ideas, right? And I recommend you do. Take in new ideas, and if they resonate, go, I'll take that on, right? The famous quotation from Picasso theoretically said, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal." I say, let's walk through life noticing, feeling. It's all a big menu. I'd like one of those. I'd like one of those. Ooh, hey, I like the way they said that. I'm going to adopt that. I say process. Why? Because the American English process, I don't know. I lived with some Canadians. I lived with some people from the UK. Process. That sounds professional to me. So we adopt things. I read in that author's article the principle of living with never resisting a generous impulse. Wow, what would that mean? It's messed me up a few times, I'll tell you. It's messed me up a few times where I'm like, oh, I had the impulse to give, but I don't want to give that. Actually, come to think of it, I've got some resentment about that person, or I'm feeling imbalanced, like they haven't given to me as much as I've given to them. Not proud of these thoughts, just being real. And so what the freedom of the principle does for me, though, is say, who do I choose to be? I choose to be someone who lives this way. And if I've got resentment or issues, let me clean that up inside me or in the relationship. All right. So that's why I'm giving away a $6,000 plus sauna, right? And also because part of what I'm doing in this process, and part of what some of my clients are doing right now, you know who you are, and this is especially for you. Quantum leaps, right? Big breakthroughs, 10x leaps in our service, our love, our income, our impact. They are possible, right? They don't happen through incremental growth. They don't happen by holding on to what's got us here. What's got us here isn't going to get us there. They don't happen by adding more things in. They happen, these quantum leaps, 10x jumps, they happen by letting go of stuff. And I'm aware of this, and you are too, because you've done it before, right? When you went from crawling to walking, you had to let it go of a lot of the strategies you used for crawling in order to be able to walk. You had to let go of some safety in order to do that, right? So I'm aware of it here. I'm in the process, though, of not only letting go of my stuff, doing it in an intentional way, a ritualistic way. Right? What's the point of that? Well, one of my declarations from my Supreme Self Manifesto that I speak out loud, abracadabra, I speak as I create. One of the ones that I speak out loud, I am the wealthy mystic, the sultan of sovereignty, and we have ferocious financial freedom. What's a wealthy mystic? What's a mystic, right? The mystery, the unknown, the unseen world. It is just as real, maybe more real than what we have in the physical. How do we have this stuff in the physical? We have it because we thought it, we imagined it, we conceived of it, and then probably we spoke it. We spoke it into being. And then it came into physical form. All physical form, all manifestation starts with imagination. Starts by being it. And who we be is always going to come down the river of causality into physical form and effect. So, I am the wealthy mystic. One of the things that means is I use ritual. Because you know this. We all know why we're doing something is more important than the fact that we do it. Right? Okay, I got time for one other quick story here. I was living in Bali. All right, that connects. Perfect. I was living in Bali, how many years ago? 12 years ago. And moving from one home to another. Similar kind of thing. And I was pretty sure I had done a really good job of taking care of the house that I was leaving. Right, put things back the way they were, got everything cleaned up nicely, left it in better shape, I believed. Right. I went to meet the owner of the house, give him back the keys, if we had keys, and I forget, we were just going to wrap up, say goodbye. And He was of the sincere belief that I owed him more money. I didn't think so. But I saw his point, and I saw how it could be that way. And it wasn't a lot. It was a few $100s. And I thought, well, you know what? It's better not to have any upset or bad blood here. So I'm just going to give him the money. I was like, all right, fine, I'll give you the money. And this dude, I credit him. Dewa, Pak Dewa. Brilliant guy. So I reach in my pocket. I pull out a few million rupiah to hand to him. He's like, no. I'm like, what do you mean no? You just said you wanted it. He's like, not if you're going to give it to me like that. I was like, snap. He's so right. Okay. Give me a moment. I stood right in front of him, closed my eyes. I was like, let me change who I'm being right now. Let me change my state. Let me give this gladly. Now, giving it to him from that space is an entirely different thing than giving it to him out of resentment. Now, one more piece to connect with Bali. When I left Bali, my daughter, Zeta, was 9, and we left on a trip thinking we were going back. We didn't go back. That's another story for another time. It was, quote, out of my hands. Would have been dangerous for us to go back. So we, overnight, lost our home, all of our stuff, my income, my business. Worst thing of all, our dog, Kiva. And suddenly we're in the U.S. with nothing. We've got 2 suitcases, right? No job, no income, no car, blah, blah, blah. I gave it all up, but not on purpose. So part of why I'm giving it all up now, giving away, selling, I am selling some things, right? Throwing things away, even things that I know I'll want when I get back here in a few months. And I'm doing it because it doesn't make sense. It makes ritual. It makes purpose. Because the 2x self, that's what we're at the 1x self now, but to get to the 2x, we know a little increase, get a little smarter, work a bit harder, right? Never mind that that's probably going to burn us out. The 10x leap, here's one way to conceive of it. Last piece for you. The 10x version of you already exists. Income, impact, success, and 80% of what's going on now doesn't fit there. 80% of attitudes, behaviors, activities, people even, it's not compatible with that. And that's scary to let all of that go, y'all. These days, this last week, almost every morning, I have some form of tears, cry. I see my doggy. I see my cat. Well, and hopefully we're going to be together again. Right? Letting go is challenging for the human-animal part, for the survival part. It means confronting fear. So, what it does, though, is it creates space. It creates the space to create. So my question for you is, what are you holding on to that's keeping you stuck? What are you holding on to in your life that's familiar? Maybe it's even been very useful. It's gotten you here. But if you were to let go of it, ooh, that would be scary. But part of you knows, ooh, that's a good fear, right? That's a fear that has something else, right? What's something you could release today, ritualistically, that would speed up momentum for you? What's in the way? What could you let go of ritualistically, intentionally, even though it doesn't make sense, in order to create space and to become who you really can be? So, with that said, I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for being with me. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Aloha.